All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to week 9. I'm all masked up because I got students in here today while we go through this week's lesson. But that's all right, though. You don't need to see this face to get the information. So let's pull up the schedule. This week, we are focused on writing our rough drafts for your poetry essay. Okay. So I'm going to go over the how to use research and quotes in a poetry essay, because quoting is slightly different when you are writing about poetry. Okay. Now, in case you haven't noticed, we're more than halfway done with the course. I mean, we've covered all of this. You are working on your rough draft right now. You're going to get a completion grade just for submitting a rough draft, which I'll go over. I'll show you how or where to find that, where to find the discussion board. You get a grade for editing a person's rough draft. Okay, and then you are going to be submitting your actual essay number 2, on the 24th, which is still in like 3 weeks from now. Okay, and then we'll be getting straight into our last essay, which is about your novel. You got to make sure that you are reading your novel. All right. Essay 3 is over the book that you were supposed to have picked and read since the beginning of the semester. Almost all of you took the little questionnaire about what book you're reading. So I have proof that most of you are reading a book. I just don't know if you actually are doing the reading. So, and you don't want to wait until you start writing the paper to then read the book. You want the book to be finished before you start writing the paper. Okay, so between now and then, the days that you don't have anything to do for my class, you need to be reading your novel. Okay, all right. So to go over this information on how to write about poetry, I have a short PowerPoint for you. And this PowerPoint, just FYI, let's see here. This PowerPoint can be found on the Blackboard page under lessons, lesson 4, poetry. No, I'm sorry, instructor lectures. It's right above where the lecture link will be. Right here, week 9 PowerPoint, using research to support analysis of poetry. So it'll be right underneath where the week 9 lecture will be posted. Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Let me switch my displays and share this with you. The joys of using Zoom to record lectures. All right. Using research to support analysis of poetry. Okay. So when quoting a poem, use a diagonal slash to represent a break in the lines. Okay. So I am going to be using the example of the Giving Tree. This is a paper that my seniors are writing about. Okay. It's a poem. It's written verse. If you notice, these lines are these are lines of poetry. They're not all the way across. You can just tell by the formatting. Okay, prose starts on the left side and goes all the way to the right side. This is poetry. They are in different length of lines. Okay, so when my seniors are writing about this poem, okay, they are going to use a slash when quoting multiple lines from the poem. Okay, even though they're writing an essay and they're writing about poetry, they don't break their lines up like this, the way it is in the poem. When they are writing about it, they still write in complete sentences. They still go from one line to the next, but they don't hit enter. You just have this slash, this diagonal slash. So it looks like this. The tree in the poem represents the selflessness and empathy women show to their loved ones. When the boy exclaims that, quote, I want to buy things and have fun, I want some money, quote. All right, the tree wanting to help him self-destructively tells him, quotation, I have no money, I have only leaves and apples, / take my apples and sell them in the city. Okay, quotation mark. So I want to buy things and have fun. That correlates to this line up here. I want to buy things and have fun. In the poem, this line ends here and goes to another line. Line 2, I want some money. Okay. Here in the essay that you're writing, when you get to the end of a line that you've written, you put this diagonal / and then go to the next line of the poem. You still gotta have quotation marks. You gotta have commas. Your poetry quotes need to be put into your own sentences. Integrated, that's the word. Integrated into your sentences. So we don't have any lines in the poem that are just by themselves, which would be dropped poems, because those are incorrect. The poem is a part of this sentence. It's integrated into the sentence. When the boy exclaims that, and then we have quotation mark, I want to buy things and have fun. You don't need a comma before the word that. All right. Like you do, if this would have said when the boy exclaims, then you would have had a comma there. After a verb, you have a comma if you go straight into the quote. If you don't have a verb and it's followed by a that, then you just go, you have no punctuation other than the quotation marks. All right, like this quote right here. The tree wanting to help him self-destructively tells him, comma, quotation mark, I have no money, which comes from I have no money. And you see here is the end of the line. So here we have diagonal / I have only leaves and apples, period. I have only leaves and apples, period. So now in the essay, we have a diagonal / take my apples and sell them in the city. Okay. This ellipses represents lines that I took out. I took out boy. I just thought that was unnecessary. Take my apples, period, 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 and sell them in the city. Okay, so when quoting a poem, use a diagonal / to represent the break-in lines. So when you're doing research, when you're trying to come up with some research, because you got to have research for this essay, okay? You want to research topics that deal with your poetry packet. They don't have to be about the poems, all right? You want to research things that deal with the poetry, the topics brought up in the packet. So like there's one poem in the women's perspective packet that deals with female friendship in an abusive relationships. One friend is talking to another friend about her abusive relationship. So you might want to find something that deals with that, how women use their friendships to cope with an abusive partner. One poem, Alone, by Edgar Allan Poe, that really addresses the depression that children feel when they also feel like when they realize that they're gay. So depression and homosexuality in children. So that would be, you can find an article written about that topic. Same thing with you can find an article by an author who talks about coming out while a teenager and relate that to one of the poems that you read. Racial inequalities, you can find plenty of articles about racial inequality. Okay, articles that discuss the perpetuating of Black stereotypes and what kind of impact that has on the Black community. So these are just different topics that you can research, that you can use to apply to your interpretation of the poems. So when you are finding your research, you're researching a topic that relates to the poems, but also, okay, you want to find research that supports your interpretation rather than finding research about someone else's interpretation. I don't want you to find sources that talk about the poems that you are writing about. Okay, I don't want you to find research that talks about the authors of your poems. I want you to develop your own interpretation of what the poems are discussing. And then I want you to find research that supports your ideas on the topics. So like, for example, in discussing the giving tree, okay, some of my students are taking the interpretation that the giving tree is about how male dominant society takes advantage of the empathetic nature of women. And so the boy represents this male dominant society and the tree represents women. Okay, so we could use this article right here. This article is from The Guardian. It's called "In a Society That Fetishizes Female Self-Sacrifice, Saying No, Save Me." So this article is not about the giving tree, but we can read the article and use what is discussed in the article to further improve our interpretation of the poem. Okay, this is by Grace Jennings. So here are some quotes. You would read the article and you'd find some quotes that you would like to use in your essay that will really like hammer home your interpretation. So like, here are 3 quotes from this article that can be applied to the giving tree. We so often say yes to favors, requests, and unrealistic parenting expectations because we fear being accused of being rude, mean, or selfish. And the we here is women, because Grace is a woman writing about women. She also writes, working mothers have shouldered the majority of the burden around the home. Okay. And she wrote, women need to draw boundaries around what we can and cannot take on in our own domestic partnerships. So these are 3 quotes that can be applied to the feminist reading of the giving tree. And the number is at the end. These are pages that these quotes appear on. Because you need to have the last name of the author and you need to have the page numbers. And there should be a period right there. So then we're putting it all together, taking our interpretation, taking our lines from the poem or summaries, and then we're pulling in our quotes from the research to really drive home our interpretation, okay? Oops. So like this would be like a paragraph from your paper. All right, this is a feminist reading of the giving tree using outside research that supports the ideas expressed in the interpretation, even though the research is not about the giving tree, but it's being applied to it. Okay, I'll read it to you. And this paragraph is organized in claim, support, and analysis, just like the way that your paragraphs should be organized. In the giving tree, the tree represents the self-sacrificing nature of women and how society, i.e. the boy, takes advantage of the female sex, expecting her to give her entirety to serve the common good. In a society that fetishizes female self-sacrifice, saying no, save me, Grace Kenning discusses the burden at home that women faced during the pandemic and how one word saved the author: no. She writes that we often say yes to favors, requests, and unrealistic parenting expectations because we fear being accused of being rude, mean, or selfish. In the giving tree, the tree doesn't say no, and because of that, she loses everything she has. If the tree had said no to the boy, she wouldn't have lost everything in the end. Women are the trees. They give everything, saying yes, even if it will hurt them. As the author argues, women should learn how to say no because we can at least draw boundaries around what we can and cannot take on. This poem serves as an allegory to teach young girls how not to be used by the people in their lives. So that's the paragraph written by one of my students. Now, I'm the teacher and I'm editing this. I would notice, there's a typo here. The V is lowercase. That should be capitalized. The introduction maybe should have something like in the article and then have the title, but whatever. Regardless, this is a very well-written paragraph where we have a clear claim. We have support provided by this article, and then we have analysis, which is the application given to the tree. Okay, it's all on topic. So like when you're, I did a lesson on using Galileo and the online research, the online library, but I also want to provide this list of outside resources that are really good. If you pull articles from any of these, you can totally use them in your oh, hold on. Yeah, screen sharing stopped because there's a awful comma that needs to be deleted. There we go. Okay. Switch displays. All right, here we go. Let me share my screen again. Share screen. There we go. All right, so the New York Times is good. Vulture, The Atlantic, Slate, The Guardian, The Economist, Washington Times, Psychology Today, New York Magazine. If you find articles on any of these resources, in these sources, then you can use those. Those are, they're not peer reviewed because there's no experiment to be conducted, but they are edited and they have an editing board and paid sponsors, and none of them lean too far left or too far right. So they are, and they all have really, really, really respectable authors, okay, and journalists that work for them. So definitely, you can definitely pull articles from these sources to support your ideas, okay? All right, when you are finished writing your rough draft, now you got to make sure though that you have a works cited page, okay? You have to have a works cited page. You have to cite your sources correctly, okay? And maybe next week I'll do another session on that, because a lot of people in their first essay did not have a very good works cited page at all. And this is something that you learned in 1101, okay? So we got to make sure that the works cited page is good. I will go ahead and make a note of that on the 1102 schedule, the one that I use. Works cited page, works cited page. Okay. Let's make a note of that. Okay, so see my sharing? Yeah, okay, here we go. All right, so you need to, when you write your rough draft, you go to lessons, you need to go to lesson 4, poetry. You need to go down to discussion board. Paper 2, peer review. Okay, you need to go to create thread. Subject, okay. Essay 2, poetry analysis. That's right. Essay 2, poetry analysis, okay. Browse my computer, upload your file, okay, and hit submit. Then there you go. So then once you upload all yours, everyone needs to upload theirs. Everyone needs to upload, okay? Because at the beginning of next week, after you upload them all, everyone's going to go in here and pick an essay to peer review, to edit, okay? Which I'll post a document that you'll use to peer review each of your essays next week. So by Monday, following Monday, you need to have an essay posted here, okay? All right, y'all. Like I said, the PowerPoint for today will be listed under here. It's right here, week 9 PowerPoint. If y'all have any questions, send me an email, let me know. I will be around.